happy Monday and welcome to the Girls in Property podcast. Woo! Oh my goodness, Monday morning. What a week it's been and what a week we have. 2 weeks now just before the Girls in Property retreat. So lots and lots going on, but great times. So as usual, I have somebody absolutely incredible with me today, which is Millie. Hi Millie, Posting Property.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good. I'll be honest with you, I just bailed out there on your surname. How do you pronounce your surname?
Bellotti. To be honest, I don't use my surname very often because A, people find it hard, and also it's just too many things to remember. Just Millie at Posting Property is easier than Millie Bellotti, and then they're like, oh my God, how many L's, how many T's, what is this?
Love it. So let me start that again. We have Millie from Posting Property on the podcast. So amazing. There we go. But do you know what, Millie? We've obviously had you before on the podcast back in the day, of course, when I was doing this with Sophie and Julia. And Sophie and Julia actually had the privilege of doing the podcast with you because I was unavailable that day. And today I get to have the privilege of actually having you on the Revised Girls in Property to talk about one of my absolute favourite subjects, which I'm so excited about.
Yeah, I figured you'd be bummed about missing the last one because it's so your topic, isn't it? Social media marketing is your thing. So yeah, this was definitely due.
I was literally so bummed. I'm like, are you joking? I have to sit through all the other property stuff and I can't talk about marketing. So yeah, and listeners will know I've been saying on the podcast for so long, I will really want to get somebody on to talk to me about social media and marketing. And what I really wanted to do was, I feel like sometimes I can say a lot of things about it, but then there's only so many times that somebody can hear an opinion from one person. And what I would love is to almost have a conversation with you to get your thoughts about things as well. And quite frankly, to learn as well. Like, you know, there's always opportunity to learn in so many ways. And I'm going to sit here like a sponge and also learn from you as well. So very exciting. So for this podcast, what we usually do, as you know, because you've been on before, is we usually start with something we are celebrating at the moment before we delve deep into who is Millie. So what are you celebrating, please, at the moment?
I am celebrating the fact that Joey's Cottage, which is my latest project, which is a serviced accommodation, is nearing completion. It is so close. I can taste it. It's almost there. And soon I'm going to be setting it all up, getting all the furniture in there. Never had to do that before because I've got a portfolio of BRRRs. So this is my first venture into SA. So there's loads more things you have to think about that I've never had to do before, like cutlery and things like that. So I'm very excited to get started with that.
Amazing. I love that. So this is your first service accommodation actual project that you're doing?
Yeah.
Ever. Okay, how exciting. So you're learning at the moment all about channel managers, linen, or management companies. How's it all going for you?
I'm definitely going to be using a management company. I do not want calls from guests saying they don't know how to turn on the TV. I do not want to be listing it on Airbnb myself. I'm a very hands-off property investor, and that is not the part I love doing. So I'm definitely going to be handing that stuff over. But I do have to do the whole setup of the property, obviously, still.
Fair enough. Do you know what? Sometimes that's the fun bit, though. You get to see it in its beauty and be like, this, you know, because I always think if you're going to set up a property as an Airbnb or service accommodation, you set it up in the way that you would want to stay, wouldn't you? You look at it and go, do you know what? I would love to stay here.
Yeah, I've done like colour drenching with the walls, which is something I've been obsessed about over Instagram for ages, looking at reels about, I don't know if you've heard the concept before of colour drenching. It's when you take the colour, but you go onto the ceiling and onto all the skirts and the arcs as well, so that it's like a really sort of immersive colour in the room rather than just, normally typically you just do the walls, you wouldn't do the ceiling and the woodwork all in the same colour. So because of that, I've actually then been inspired to do it in my home as well. So I've done some sort of courageous things in this one because it's a serviced accommodation, which I'm now translating into my own home.
I love that because you've just moved recently as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I actually have decorators upstairs right now sorting out my house. So, and that's another thing I've learned from property is the value of outsourcing jobs that you are not that great at. Like I can paint, obviously everyone can decorate, but they can do it so much better than me.
Well, also you get to come on a podcast with me. So, you could be painting or you could be podcasting.
Yeah. No,
I love that. And just remind me, when is that due to be completed then? When is it ready?
Well, the builder thinks he's going to be finished mid-April, as we all know. That might not happen, but I'm hoping that by the end of April, it will all be finished and set up.
Okay, in time for summer then?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Okay, fingers crossed for you. I can't wait to see the progress of it. I can't wait to see when it's all finished. I always see it on, of course, social media, and just think the transformation you're already doing is so fantastic. So I love that. Really, really great. And then for me, something that I am celebrating, I'm actually going to break a rule, which is I usually only celebrate one thing, but because it's my podcast, I'm going to allow myself to break a rule, and I'm actually going to celebrate two things, because one I already had planned, another one has only happened really recently. So I was like, do you know what? It's my podcast. I'm just going to do two
You go
celebrations.
crazy.
Yeah, go crazy. Absolutely. Let's be wild. So the first celebration is this idea where I just got back from holiday. I've been in Croatia for a week. And I don't know if this is the same for you, Millie. When you go away, it gives you time to really reflect, and it gives you time to almost think when you're not doing mundane day to day tasks, and almost being in it and coming out of it. And one of the realizations I've actually had is that I'm growing. I'm literally growing as a person, and I'm growing in my businesses. And what has taken a very, very long time to do, I think I have made the decision to actually do it, which is to start building a team within my businesses. And that's massive for me. I've been doing everything on my own for the longest time. Like literally everything. My to-do lists are insane. People send me these direct messages all these time with these memes about people who've got like to-do lists coming out of their heads. They're like, oh, I saw this and thought of you. And I thought, well, that's not a good thing, is it? And people have been saying to me for the longest time, they're like, you need to build a team, you need to outsource, you need to get some help. And I'm naturally quite almost like a control freak, and I think I can do it and I can hold on to it. And when you're growing a business, you've got to be really careful, because also you think to yourself, I don't want to spend money because I'm growing a business. But then you get to a point where you look at yourself and you go, do you know what? You actually have got enough. Like you should now start to grow. And I think it took me going away from the business to realize my businesses now cannot actually grow with just me. I think I'm at the point now where I can't go any further without employing a team. And that's a massive thing for me and in my development, to realize it's time to grow, it's time to go to the next step. And we just said before coming on the podcast, I said I'm starting a YouTube channel for girls in property, which is really exciting. I'm getting on TikTok. There's some more events that are going to be happening, and I can't do all of this on my own and do property management and run everything that I do and just be a person in the world. I just can't do it. It's too much. So the first thing I'm celebrating is growth and development, and actually bringing in a team, which is going to be very exciting. So watch this space. We shall see what happens. And then the second thing I'm going to celebrate, and because this literally happened this morning, just before I was heading out and going to be doing the podcast, is I've been trying to sort everything for the retreat over the 2 weeks completely on my own. So I need to get like goodie bags and cocktail toppers and banners and all sorts of things. It's wild. Like it's mad at the moment. But whilst all of this is happening, I'm still doing my day-to-day property management, service accommodation business. Everything is happening around that. So as I'm Googling cocktail toppers, I get this booking from Airbnb for like 64 nights. And I'm like, oh, this looks fun. Let's pause cocktail toppers and let's look at this a second. And after many conversations around floor plans and square footage and lots and lots of questions around this client, the guest coming to stay, we eventually agreed to the 64-night booking, which came in literally late last night / this morning. So I'm celebrating also that in the way that, if that had happened to me like a year ago and I saw this booking come in for 64 nights, I would be like, oh my God, what do I do? I'm not sure. And how do I do it? And now I'm just like, yeah, you just do this. And this is how you do it. And then it's quite nice. And then you don't have to worry about it again. And you almost become quite measured in thinking about it. So I'm celebrating a 64-night booking as well for the
Amazing.
service accommodation. So it's really cool, which hopefully you will get as your first one, which would be great.
That would be a great first booking, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So, Millie, enough about me. This is all about you. So, I'm going to also give you, because I can, the title of Queen of Social Media. I give that title to you.
Thank you. I will take it. I'll take the crown.
So, please, could you explain a bit about you? Who is Millie? What do you do within kind of helping your clients through social media and property? And also, I know that you invest in property yourself, so what you do alongside, and just a bit about you, really.
Yeah, so in 2019, I was the head of social media for an advertising agency in London. I was working on big brands. I've done the launch of the biggest cruise ship in the world. I got them trending on Twitter. I have worked for Walker's Chris, did all of their social media strategy and campaigns. I've done sort of worked on big name brands. That was my job. And then I went to this property talk in 2019 with my late partner, and we fell in love with the whole idea, the whole concept. And so I very quickly quit my job, which most of my friends thought I was absolutely crazy to do, and moved up to the Northeast, which is where he was from, and started a property portfolio. He stayed in the Navy, so we did have an income that wasn't crazy. And I just started growing that portfolio. But I did sort of then join Instagram because it's quite lonely doing property on your own. He was away a lot with the Navy, so I just wanted to be a part of a network, of community. So I joined Instagram as a property investor this time. And I just saw a lot of people there, saw a lot of opportunities and a lot of missed opportunities as well in terms of how people were using Instagram or social media. And I thought, actually, there's a lot I know that I can apply from my previous job to help property investors grow on social media, and grow their business, get angel investment, grow their credibility and their network, all of those things. So that is why I then started giving out sort of free tips on how to use social media for people, property investors who didn't necessarily know how to use it properly. And then it sort of grew from there, and it developed into sort of a paid program, which is now what I do, where I teach property investors how to use social media over an eight-week period, sort of covering strategy, which is my forte from the advertising agency days, and then also going into like sort of how do you do it, how do you create a reel, etc. But for me, strategy is always key. So that is what I started doing, and I do that alongside doing property investments, so running my portfolio, growing the portfolio.
Love it. Perfect. Wonderful. And so with this sort of program that you have, how many clients do you have at the moment, or can you have at any one time, for example?
But because I want to still go out viewing, I still want to be able to manage the portfolio and do everything like that, I actually really restrict it. I never work with more than 4 people at one time. And because it's an 8-week long period, that's actually, I guess you could say, 2 people in 1 month. So it's really very few people that I work with. So I'm quite selective with who I work with as well, because I want to make sure I'm working with great people. And I have worked with insanely lovely property investors. Like, to be honest, I haven't met a property investor who's horrible yet. I think we are an amazing bunch, and it brings me so much joy to go on these calls and to help them and to see the growth and what happens to them, how their career takes off from having grown their personal brand on social media. That brings me absolute huge amounts of joy.
I love that. It's like you get wins from their wins, which I really love seeing. And talk to me about a typical person, therefore, that would come to you to ask for your services. Are they traditionally starting out, or could it be that actually they have quite a few followers, and actually you need to help them grow? What's a typical person that would come?
I think there is a variety there. So the only thing that's my stipulation is they have to be a property investor. That's it. But apart from that, they could be someone who's never been on social media before, literally never posted in their life, or it could be someone who has 7,000 followers. One of my clients had 7,000 followers already, was posting daily, was already active, was known in the community. And yet you would assume, okay, why did she come on the program? What did she need? Actually, what was happening was she wasn't converting her audience. So she was putting out the wrong message for what she actually wanted to do. And so she wasn't actually converting anyone. She was like, what am I doing wrong? I'm posting all the time. I have all these followers, but yeah, I'm not achieving anything that I want to achieve. And so we were actually working it backwards and sort of breaking it down and be like, okay, this is a message actually you want to be putting out if this is the thing you want to achieve. So I have worked with people who do understand social media already. They're just maybe not getting the results, or it's someone who literally doesn't. I have a lot of people who come on the discovery call saying, I don't know anything about social media. That's not true. Most of the time, everyone does know a bit about social media. So yeah, there is a variety. The only thing is they have to be property investors, have a property business, because I do still get sometimes brands and companies ask for my help, but I'm not interested in that anymore. I just want to help property investors because that is now my niche, and I want to help other people who are in that niche.
I love that. And I love how assured of yourself you are in that. You're not going to deviate. You're like, no, this is what I do. This is what I'm good at. And I'm not going to be turned by something else, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. I was just trying to think to myself there. Obviously, I'm quite active on social media, and I see a lot of other people who are quite active on social media. But you're right. It's all about this level of what's the reason you're posting? And I ask this question all the time, and I don't know what your thoughts are about this in regards to what's the reason for the post, and is there a call to action? So with this client that you had who had the 7,000 followers, I presume that she was posting great content and doing everything, but there wasn't necessarily a call to action, or the call to action wasn't quite done in the correct way. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so with her audience, it was actually, she was just talking to the wrong people. She was giving tips on, say, for example, she was doing, because that's what everyone does on social media. You see other people do the thing and you're like, oh, that's what I should do. That's not necessarily right. So she was giving tips on how to view properties, how to spot damp, how they were all really useful things, but it was entirely pointless for her audience, because her audience was actually people who didn't have time to go do viewings, didn't have time to do any of that. They wanted to be completely hands-off investors. They wanted to basically have a sourcer do all of that work for them, because they were not in 9 till 5s, they were in 7 till 7s. So they did not have the time to be going off and doing those things. So whilst it did show that she knew how to do those things, which is important, it wasn't quite the right message. She needed to be showing, I can go and do these things for you. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to doing these things. I can find you these deals whilst you get to focus on the job that you're doing, because that's what you want to do. You just want property as a sort of insurance. There are some people who, some people want to do property like you, who want to do it full time. There are others who are doing it because they're doing it for long-term wealth. They're doing it for their children. They're doing it for a pension. They're not necessarily looking to quit their job. And that was her audience. But she was talking to people as if it was the audience of people who wanted to quit their job tomorrow to do property full time. So that's where the disconnect was.
That's so interesting. I find all of this like so fascinating, because you're right. You could be posting because you're right with what you say. You see what other people do on social media, and so you naturally think to yourself, oh, I should be doing that because that's what they're doing. But actually, you could be targeting two completely different audiences for your what it is that you need. Is it investors you're looking for? Is it that you're trying to find new projects? Are you just trying to start out and get some followers? And it's really interesting what you just said about, it's great that she was posting about these things that she was aware of, but she was posting the wrong things to attract and therefore see a return on investment through her course, whatever it is that she was trying to sell, as it were.
We even created, I always do like an avatar for everyone, like their target audience. We work on the avatar. Who are they? And we wrote down who they were, how much they earned, even where in the UK they were, all of those things. And she said by week, I think it was week 6 of the program, she said, really, there are people sending me DMs who are the exact target audience that we worked on. I'm like, yeah, but obviously that's why we work on it. She's like, but literally to the T, it's that age and that amount of money in the bank and X, Y, and Z. It's because the message was so clear. She was so clearly speaking to them that they felt seen in that content and said, oh yeah, you're speaking to me. You're the person I need to be working with.
That's why I give you the queen's crown of social media. But that's it. And you just made a fantastic point there, actually, which is social media, I believe, should be used as a tool in your toolkit. It shouldn't be used for just consuming and sitting there and scrolling. It should be used as a producer, like you should be using it in the right way. And you just made an excellent point, actually, which is reverting it back to marketing and the marketing basics, which is actually deciding who your avatar is. To me, that might seem like a really, like, we could sit there and I could think that that's such a basic thing to think who is your avatar. But to other people who maybe don't have the background in marketing and don't have that, just don't think in that way, they might not have even thought to themselves, do you know what, when I post on social media, who is it that I'm posting to? Who is it I'm trying to attract? And I think it'd be really good for the viewers to actually sit there and ask themselves that question. And then from there, then base it on, okay, if this is my avatar and this is who I'm trying to attract, this is what I should be posting instead. So I think actually that's really interesting. And I have so many questions I want to ask you. This whole idea around, for example, people believing that they need to post every single day, for example, and you see some of these people who just are constantly posting every single day. I mean, what are your thoughts in regards to the level of that and things, and how often people should be posting and the algorithm attached to it? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I do. I think it really depends on the stage you're at in your business. If you are in growth mode, say you've only got a couple of hundred followers and you're really looking to grow, and you need people to see what you're doing, then yeah, in that instance, I would probably say posting good quality content. Like there's no point posting every single day and it's boring things, because you're never going to grow from that. But if it's good quality, if it's targeting a specific audience, if it's really useful, valuable content, and you're posting it every day, you will get seen more. So if you are at that low follower level and you are really on the growth trajectory that you need to get out there, then yeah, maybe posting every day would be the way to grow those followers quickly and get there. However, most people can't do that well. Most people don't have a lot of time to spend on social media because they're growing their property business as they should. And I don't want them to be spending hours and hours on social media. So actually, in that instance, less is more. So do fewer, maybe do 2 or 3 a week, but make them really good. Make people know that when you're posting, it's going to be something of value that they want to see again and again. Because the second you get known for someone who's just posting for the sake of it, people aren't going to be engaged. Instagram's not going to show your post as much. So you could be posting every day and no one's seeing it. You want Instagram to know, I'm going to be posting things of value. And when I put them out there, people are going to be interested. They're going to be commenting, they're going to be engaging, and they're going to be maybe watching the entire video rather than the first second. So you need to let Instagram know, this is what I'm putting out there. I'm going to be consistent with it and it's going to be really good. And then Instagram will show it to more people. That's how the algorithm works, because at the end of the day, people complain about their reach going down or whatever happening. It's in their interest to keep people on Instagram for longer. So they want your content to do well, so that they're not working against you. If it's not doing well, there's a reason for that.
Do you know, it's so interesting talking to somebody else about this, because for me, I was in a growth stage of my business journey, so I tried to post as frequently as I could. But you're literally speaking my language now, which is I just don't have time. I literally don't have time to sit and make reels and post and to do things. I'm out viewing. I'm building an event. I'm trying to onboard people. Like, there's just so much going on, and then you're like, oh, I haven't posted. So stories are really easy to do. For example, I post a story every day because it takes me maximum of about 10 seconds. But to actually physically create a reel or to create a post, it's a bit more time consuming. So what do you have any advice for people in regards to, like, what maybe when people are thinking about creating reels, what really packs a punch within the property sector? What are some really good quick tips you could give to be really eye-catching for a reel?
It's tricky. I think with that, it goes back to the personal branding route. The thing that people find the most interesting is other people, and like actually seeing what that person's about and their values, and maybe something funny about them, something distinctive and different. So if you're posting the same thing that everyone else is posting, it might be a video of a property, maybe you're pointing at numbers. I know that's very popular. It's not necessarily going to do very well for you, because you're just going to blend in with everyone else. Whereas if you're showing your true self, if there's something maybe different about you, or you've got a unique selling point that the next person doesn't have, use that, because that will be interesting. And then you'll be known for that person who always does this, or always says this, or always looks like this, and you will then stand out on the feed. So you want to just basically have that consistency of, like, when someone sees your content, they think, oh, that's that person there. I love them.
I love that. And do you know what? We have to address it as well. Dear old Bruce, your little dog Bruce, who is the cutest dog in the whole wide world. I'm obsessed with dogs, so I always talk about dogs. Whenever I see Bruce, I'm like, I don't even need to look at who's posted it on a story. I'm like, oh, that's Millie's post.
Yeah,
that's Millie's
part of my personal brand for sure. But it happened really naturally. Like, in my old office, in my old house, there was a bed right behind me, and he would sit on the bed and be like on my shoulder as I was doing calls and things. So he just became sort of, I was taking pictures or I was doing a video about how to do X, and he was just sat on my shoulder, and it just became part of my thing. And I was like, actually, he's pretty much my personal brand, and he is also my business partner. He's with me in everything.
I love it. He's seen the whole journey, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been to property networking events, he's been to retreats, he's been to everything.
Oh, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And like I said, like, you use that as you say. And do you know what I'm really noticing at the moment is I'm noticing a lot of people who are starting out in property who don't necessarily have that many followers. Some of their content is so funny. Like, oh, do you know what? I'm going to find it on Instagram actually, because I want to do a shout out to them, because I think their content is hilarious and I think they're doing so well. Here we go. I already found them. Honest Property Sisters.
Mm.
Honest Property Sisters, I think, are absolutely hilarious on Instagram, and they actually make me laugh out loud.
Mm.
And I just think, do you know what? Like, they just bring a smile to my face. And I think, go on, girls. Like, it's two sisters
Mhm.
in property investing. So I'm doing a shout out to you girls. I think you're absolutely fabulous and keep making me laugh, because why take life so seriously?
Mm.
So there you
I
go.
love that. I
They
love
got
that. See,
noticed.
they have tapped into the thing that makes them different. They can use humor. Maybe the next person can't. Maybe you're more an analytical, budgets focused person. Use that instead. Like whatever it is that you have that's different, that you can make someone stop and laugh or think or whatever it might be. Like cause a reaction in someone, and then they'll remember you.
I love that. So let's now think about this other aspect, which is I sometimes get, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I will get this because I also mentor people as well. And I'll try and encourage them to get onto social media. And not always, but sometimes they'll say to me things such as, I don't have time for that. I'm not interested in doing that. I don't believe in it. I don't think it's worth it. I can't see the return on investment in doing it. I get all sorts of things that are brought my way where
Mhm.
people basically say that they don't think it's worth doing it for their business.
Mhm.
Do you get that as well?
I do get people say, I don't know how to. That's the main thing is like, I don't know how to. I don't get often people say, I don't see the point in it, because I think most people now understand the value of what social media can do. And I guess if someone's booking in a call with me, they can
Mm.
see the value of social media. But there is, when I go and I often do talks about social media to property investors, and there are some people who I can see are a bit skeptical. So I then talk about, okay, well, what can social media actually do for you? Not that I'm trying to convince everyone to go on social media. If you're doing amazingly well in your business without social media, by all means, do not use it. Like if you have all of the angel investment you could possibly need, all of the networking that you want, all of the power team, you don't need social media for anything. Great, that's really brilliant. But most people, that's not the case. Maybe they are looking for angel investment. Maybe they are looking to grow their network. Maybe they're looking for opportunities to speak at events. So one of my clients, Charlotte from Accidental Female Developer, she spoke at a parliamentary group about for women in development. Like that was born out of her presence on social media. It's got her to do amazing things, but she's spoken all over the country. She's part of that parliamentary group. She's grown several businesses off the back of the brand she's built for herself. So there are so many amazing things that can come out of social media. So I think it tends to be quite old school people who don't see the benefit in it. I think mostly at the moment it's more, I don't know how to use it. I'm really struggling. I get that it's important, but I don't get how to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really tricky because, of course, we never want to stereotype ever, and everyone is very different in their own ways, as it were. But do you feel that there might be a potential generational difference, or even a difference between men and women, kind of within the social media aspect in terms of how they want to use it? Like, for example, sometimes I can be at these property networking nights, and they'll say to me, "Oh, I see you on social media," and I say to them, "Oh, great, like are you active as well? Like what do you do?" And they're like, "Oh no, I'd never do anything like that." And I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "Oh, it's just not for me." And usually they tend to be a certain male, and then or female, but usually male, and of a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm thinking to myself, is there a very clear divide in that, or is it more just personality?
I think it's definitely personality, because I have
Yeah.
worked with a lot of men, actually. A lot of people think I only work with women. Like, I've had a few DMs from men being like, do you work with men? I'm like, yeah, of course. It just happens.
I get that. I get that because of girls in property. I
Yeah.
get DMs from men going, "Do you also mentor men?" And I'm like, "Yes, absolutely."
Yeah. So I think it's really more of a personality thing. Also, I don't know if you know the indie landlord, Suzanne, on Instagram.
Oh, yes, yes.
So she is obviously older and a woman and on Instagram. And she is, amazing, really active, really engaged with the idea of using social media and growing her business. So I don't think there's an age thing necessarily. I think it's more of a mindset thing, like getting
Yes.
over your own mindset, getting over your own blockers.
Do you know what? I really like that. And I like the fact that you've corrected me in this as well, because I think it's so important. This is why I love this podcast. It's to have these conversations, to have real conversations about this, as if we were just sitting down having a cup of tea and being like, what do you think about this?
Mm.
So I suppose what I really want to try and help people do is overcome that mindset, because social media has done wonders for me, like literally transformed my business. And I just really want to encourage other people to say, you can do that too. And sometimes I think you're right. It's about knowledge, even to that level, isn't it? And potentially, if if you wanted help to learn how to grow and to create your avatar and everything, then of course they could partner with you and come and work with you and learn, as it were. But it's an amazing tool. One of the things that I always find, and I've said this before on social media, is I don't really have a problem when people say to me things such as, oh, no, it's not for me, I'm not going to get on social media. But then they say things to me such as, oh, but I now need to find investors. I now need to start expanding. And I'm like, but then that doesn't make sense to me, because you're going to limit yourself, aren't you, geographically, just to your area. Whereas I don't know if this has happened for you, but for me, I now speak to people from all over the UK, some international, but mainly all over the UK. And if social media wasn't there, I would never have met these people. So I think it's an amazing tool.
There's also the idea, if they're looking for angel investment, I don't even think necessarily you'd be on social media to find new people. Sometimes you can use social media to reach the people you already know. So a lot of investors I work with who want angel investors, I always say, who's your lowest hanging fruit? Who is the person who is the most likely to invest? It's not going to be a stranger who has just started following you on social media. The most likely person is someone, an acquaintance, a family member, a friend, who is actually following you on social media, seeing what you're up to. They're watching all your progress updates. They're looking at you, navigate the hurdles and the ups and downs of property, maybe with a bit of humor. And they're loving what they see. And they think, you know what, I do have money in the bank that's sat there doing nothing. And I can see that you know what you're doing and that you are willing to put in all of the work. And I can do this for absolutely nothing. I can get 8% return or whatever it is for doing no work while you take on all the slog and everything for me. So those are actually the main people you're likely to reach when you're looking for angel investment. Of course, you can get strangers invest in your business. I have had complete strangers invest in my business who follow me from social media. That is definitely the case. That can happen. However, the lowest hanging fruit, people you already know. So actually, getting on social media is actually also to talk to them, because they need to see proof in the pudding. You could tell them every time you're at a dinner party that you do property, but they can't see it. Whereas if on social media you're posting it, you're actually showing it, they're actually seeing it before their eyes. And that is really, really powerful.
I think that's amazing. And funny enough, I was speaking to somebody the other day about this, and I agree with you all the way with what you said in regards to lowest hanging fruit and finding the investors closest to you and speaking to them. Absolutely. And it ties in with what somebody said to me the other day, which is they admitted to me the fact, and I've used this word before, and I don't know what you think about this word that I've used before for social media, is you get people who actively engage in social media. They're actively commenting, they're actively liking, they're actively engaging. And then you have people who I refer to as lurkers, people who lurk.
Yeah, that's a marketing term.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
lurkers. So I'm like, there they are lurking. Anyway, so this person, because I said this on the podcast before, this person, bless them, DM'd me the other day and she goes to me, Athena, I admit this to you, I'm a lurker. And she's like, I'm just going to sit there and I just lurk at people. And I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking to myself from an investment point of view, I'm like, well, that person might lurk and be watching you, never engaged with you before, but then wants to then initiate a conversation as well. So never think that just because you're not getting likes or you're not getting comments or you're not getting the engagement that you think, it doesn't mean that people aren't watching you. I think people are definitely watching you.
Specifically angels, I find they are the biggest lurker audience that's ever existed. They are the biggest lurkers because they pretend like they're not interested in that they don't actively support you. Of your audience, it's much more likely that another property investor is going to congratulate you on your latest project or say, well done on that, or I agree with you on this. So they're going to be the ones who maybe engage the most, but actually the ones who are going to give you the money, it's unlikely to be another property investor because they're off active buying properties themselves. It's going to be those lurkers who are watching and watching but aren't saying anything until the point at which you've put your latest post, and that was just the catalyst. I actually got a message today from one of my clients saying it's finally happened. One of these lurkers has finally tipped over, and it was from a video of my children being involved in the project. That was what tipped them over the edge, and I thought that was lovely.
Do you know what? Absolutely. And I said this was not recent. I said this about, I don't know, 6 months ago to one of my mentees, actually, because he was trying to do social media, and I was trying to help him the best way I could to teach him the things to put out on social media. And he was doing his best and personalities and things. But then I said to him, you need to start getting your personality involved in this. It can't just all be about facts, and it can't all be about just property. You've got to get you out there. You really do. And I said, why don't you start involving your family? Why don't you start talking about who you are and things? And he says, oh, but people aren't interested in that. And I'm like, of course they're interested in that, because then you're relatable. And so he started to put his daughter in it. He started to put his family out there. And instantly he started to get more engagement, a bit more attraction, as it were. And I know not everybody is comfortable doing that because they have family circumstances and things. But I just think, as you say, personality. People buy from people that they like, don't they?
It doesn't have to be your children. It could be you. It could be your dog. It could be
Yes.
a number of things. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to use your family if you don't want to use your family. But absolutely, that is the thing that makes the difference. Is showing your real self. Because if you think about it, like there's an interesting exercise I do on my program where I get someone to go into their insights on Instagram, which is really helpful. There's a little insights section. You can look at, you can sort your post from the most engaged to the least engaged, from the most saved to the least saved. There's a really interesting metric as well that everyone should check out. It's profile visits. I find that to be a fascinating metric. It's called profile visits. So you can look at your content. You can look at, say the posts that you've done in the last 3 months, and you can sort it by the amount of profile visits that you've had for your posts. So for example, what that means is that someone has been scrolling on Instagram, your post has come up, and it's been so intriguing. Something about that post has really got them thinking or wanting to know more about you. So they've then clicked and gone to your profile to check you out a bit more. Now, from there, they might have then gone on to binge all of your highlights to learn more about you. They might have gone on your website and booked a call. They might have done any number of things that are like really high value actions, right? So I find that a really important metric. So it's such an interesting one. And weirdly, Instagram automatically will rank it by reach. It'll say highest reach to lowest reach. Reach is such an unimportant metric, really, because I don't care how many people, saw this. I want to know how many people did something about it after having seen it. That to me is way more interesting. Like, how many people saved it because it was so interesting that they wanted to come back to it another time? How many people then landed on my profile and booked in a call with me? Like, those are actual valuable metrics, not fluffy metrics like likes or reach. It's actual action off the back of it. But I don't remember why I got into this. But oh yes, that's right. Because
this is so interesting. I love this. Yeah.
But I did it with my client yesterday, and the lowest engagement, so not reach, just engagement, was pictures of floor plans. And his most engaged, most profile visits was a picture of him outside of one of his properties. I was like, well, obviously, is this now making sense to you about using yourself more? Because he was really camera shy, doesn't want to show himself much. And when he saw the numbers stark there, he was like, okay, fine, I'll do more posts of myself. I see it now.
That's all they need. They actually need to see the metrics, some people, don't they? So that's called profile. I've never heard of it before. Profile visits, and that's actually on Instagram itself, is it?
Yeah, it's just in the insights section. When you go in the insights, you can have a look at, this is something I say to my clients as well. I'm like, don't get obsessed with looking at how each post has done. Because to me, it's like, sometimes it's a fluke. Like sometimes you'll put something out and maybe it was a bad day. Maybe it was a bank holiday and everyone was out and they weren't on their phone. So that's why it flopped. Don't look at each individual post and think, oh, why did I do so badly on this one? But, and just overthink everything. Don't do that. However, as a quarterly task, I quite like going into insights with my clients and say, okay, let's look at the general trends, like what's generally working, what's generally not working so well, and let's use that data to improve. But let's not get obsessed on a post by post basis on what's working or what's not, because
I love that. You've told a person such as me what to start looking at and told me not to obsess over it. And I have a very obsessive personality. So now I'm just going to be like, okay, let's look at this. I'll take your advice. But you know what? There you go. That was a gem of what you can experience by working with you. Just that bit of information was fantastic. And I didn't know about that. I didn't even know that you could do
That's
that.
2 minutes in 8 hours.
Yeah, amazing. Well, there you go. It's fantastic. And then the other question I was going to ask you, which actually you sort of touched on there, was this whole idea about actually vanity metrics, the actual call to action, real hardcore return on investment metrics. And I always talk about this as well. It's so interesting. I always see so many people and they all concentrate on, well, how many followers has that person got? How many followers? And it's like, well, actually, no, it's kind of irrelevant. And how many likes that person has. I'm like, that's also kind of irrelevant. You want to be seeing actually how many people are engaging in the post itself, how many people are commenting, how many people are saving it, like you said. So what do you find when people say, oh, well, this person's got 20,000 likes, 20,000 followers, and this person's got 30,000 followers. But then you look at them and you're like, well, actually, look, this is actually not a very healthy page because they only have 30 likes or something. What's your thoughts about that?
When people ask me that, I literally go, okay, let's go check them out. And then I show them how many posts they've put out, how many followers they have, and what their average engagement rate is. And I say, this person has 100% bought followers, 100%. So a lot of people, a lot of property investors, unfortunately, are doing this where they buy followers because they think it makes them look good. Most people now understand that follower, I hope, that follower number means absolutely nothing because people buy followers all the time and it's a totally irrelevant metric. And they're only shooting themselves in the foot because, yes, there might be some people being like, oh, yeah, they've got 10,000 followers. That must mean they're a big deal. But does that mean anything? Them thinking, oh, that person's a big deal because they've got 10,000 followers. Actually, no, because what's going to convert them into wanting to work with them is seeing the results of what they're doing, is seeing all the other things. Would I like to work with this person? Who are they? Let's look at previous deals. And none of that is going to come just from the number of followers that person has. So a lot of the time, if you're looking at inflated, if you see someone who's only posted, say, 20 times, and they've got 10,000 followers, and their average, number of likes is like 5 per post, massive red flag. They are 100% have fake followers in there.
Do you know, I just don't understand it, if I'm completely honest with you. I'm just trying to picture someone who goes from having 1,000 followers overnight to, say, 10,000 or even 5,000. I'm like, do you think that people don't see that? Like, I just don't. And also, like, I almost just, for me, I just don't understand it. I think why? Like, I think it's a vanity thing, don't they? They think, oh, it will make me feel good by having these followers, as it were. Whereas, I see people who are doing absolutely incredible things and putting on amazing things. Do you know what? Even quite frankly, like Girls in Property podcast, right? If we just talk about Girls in Property Instagram group, I've got 1,700 followers. Like that's 1,700, less than 2,000 on the Girls in Property one, because literally that is just organic growth. I don't go out and try and get followers or find followers. It's purely organic. Whether I decide to change that, we'll see. But then from there, managed to do a sellout retreat for over 80 women in property with only 1,700 followers. And I'm like, it just shows you it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's just pure vanity. And I myself can also get obsessed, and I'll admit this firsthand, over thinking, oh, that post only got 20 likes, and oh, that post got 60 likes. And it does kind of like can affect you almost within your heart. And I think that it shouldn't really do that, but I suppose just use it from what you're saying as advice, is use that as a tool to look at insights to see, well, why maybe did that post hit better than the other one, and therefore learn from it for the next one.
General trends rather than post by post, because maybe it's a format that you're using that's not working. Maybe there's like an intro, maybe there's like a 10-second intro and people are dropping out at that point because people's attention spans are like goldfish. So you need to get to the point quicker. Maybe that's the thing. But you won't know that unless you're looking at it over time and you're looking at several posts rather than just one, because there could be any number of reasons why that particular one didn't do well, that are nothing to do with the actual post itself, and maybe more to do with the day you posted it or the time you posted it, or that specific day being a sunny day so everyone was out. Like literally there are so many reasons. It could be nothing to do with your content, which is why it's better to do an overview analysis rather than obsess about single posts.
That's fantastic advice. That is, do you know, I'm really going to take that away with me from this podcast, is to look at things as like an overall barometer as opposed to just looking at individual ones. And then a quick question for you. What is your opinion about this? Because I have, in the wonderful world of life and property and social media and everything, everybody has an opinion about everything. People tell me all the time, they're like, yeah, but this person has this opinion and this person. I'm like, yeah, everyone has an opinion every day, every night. So the advice I got recently, and I would love to hear your thoughts about this, was two things. Number one was they said to go and investigate and start learning the insights as to what time of day to post, and also to learn about what day of the week to post. So that's my first thing that I had a conversation about. Do you have an opinion about days and times, or is this like your secret weapon that you keep back?
There's a section I do on this, and it'll make you laugh because it's so the opposite of what you've just been told. But you can actually find out. You can go again in your insights, and you can look at what Instagram tells you is the most active time of your followers and the most active day of your followers. I don't know if you've ever done that exercise, but when you go, it says they are most active Monday through to Sunday at exactly the same level. Thank you, Instagram. That's so helpful. So people are online every single day. And then you look at the most active times they're available, that they're online, and it's from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. Well, who knew? So it's actually incredibly unhelpful. Thank you, Instagram. But I use that to show people there is no perfect day. There is no perfect time to post. The best time is when you have the time to actively be on the channel, engaging. Being an active community member is like a big tick in Instagram's books. So if you post and run, so it's say 7 p.m. on a Wednesday, and you are cooking dinner for your kids, so you're busy, but you know you have to post, and somewhere you read that that was the best time to post, so you're going to post, but then you're just going to leave it and you're going to go make your dinner. That is a bad idea. The best thing to do is to be like, okay, when in my day do I actually have time to, when I post, engage with others, respond to comments, be what Instagram would call an active community member. When you have the time to do those things, that is the best time to post. It could be 11 a.m., it could be 3 p.m., it could be whatever time. It's all about when you have the time to do it. Because if you think about the average person and how they're online, it's different for everyone, isn't it? So like today, you're recording a podcast right now, so you're not on Instagram, but tomorrow at this time, you won't be. So maybe you are on Instagram. So everyone's different depending on their schedule. No one has the exact same schedule every day. No one's a robot being like, right, at 8 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I go on Instagram. Everyone goes on social media at different times every day. So there is no perfect time to post. Perfect time is when you have time.
That's brilliant. I love that. I've absolutely loved that. And then my final one question, because this is related to the other one, was they also said to me, don't ever cross share across platforms because it messes your algorithm up. So they're like, if you cross share across Facebook and Instagram, they don't like that because then you're not actively actually posting in Facebook, posting in Instagram. So what I stopped doing, because this person said to me to stop doing it, was I stopped cross posting. So I now, when I post in Instagram. I then pull it out. I then take it and put it in Facebook. I pull it out. I then put it in LinkedIn. And it's so time consuming, to be honest with you, doing that. Is it still worth doing that because it will help the algorithm or not?
I don't know who this person is who gave you all this advice, but I really didn't read all of it, to be honest. I would say, to me, property investors, we're busy, right? We've got stuff to do. We're not influencers who want 100 million followers and views. Like, that's not what we're after, right? We're after specific goals which are related to our business. So for me, it's all about how can we use social media to help us achieve those goals without sucking up our entire time and life. I would much rather my clients did a reel that was engaging and good, but wasn't perfect. That they didn't sit there for hours editing it and making it perfect. Yes, if you have millions and millions of followers, maybe you have to sit there in the editing app and making it perfect because that is your job as a content creator. You literally make money from creating that reel. But as a property investor, you're not making money from creating that reel. You're making money from the things that come out of it, which is why it's so unimportant to me to make these tiny, tiny tweaks that take hours and hours, like individually posting on each channel when there's a simple button that will let you let it go live at the same time for both. Why would you make your life harder? Like, to me, that's such a small incremental gain. Like, maybe it's true that you might get a couple of extra likes if you did it a few hours later on Facebook, but is it worth it for the time? No. You're busy.
No,
I
can tell you the answer is no. And do you know what? I'm so glad I've had this chat with you. You've been a breath of fresh air for me, because I do feel that sometimes I can get so into this world of social media, and I can just sit there for hours. And the person you just described saying, are you going to sit there and edit it and try and make it perfect in this? And what's really funny about me is, and in some aspects of my life, I'm more of a done is better than perfect. For example, my podcast little setup here. Oh my goodness, like 5-star luxury over here. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of people message me and they're like, do you know, I've had messages from people that they mean the best, like it's with the best intentions, there's no malice. But they always say to me, they're like, you need to get a better podcast set up. And I'm like, thanks guys. Like I didn't think about that at all. But but obviously podcasts don't make money. So you need to just do it one step at a time. And then when you can actually do it, you can grow. But then when it comes to other things like making a reel, I can obsess about that to try and make it the best that it can be for over an hour, which is why it's put me off actually posting, because I think in order to create one, it's going to take me an hour to do, and I don't have an hour spare. So maybe what I have to take away from this podcast from you and learning is, do you know what, Athena? Spend maximum 20 minutes on it, give out really good content, give out gold. And if it's not perfect, it doesn't matter. And that might be a really good shift for me.
100%. Because if you think about it, like that thinking of it's going to take me forever, so I'm not going to do it, is hurting you so much more than that post going out and not being 100% perfectly edited. Like, wouldn't you get more results from having posted it and getting feedback? Maybe you've got an angel off the back of it. Maybe you've got an opportunity to speak at another event because of that post, but you didn't do that post because you were worried it wasn't going to be perfect.
Such good advice. Thank you for that. I honestly, like, thank you. I'm going to be taking a different approach going forward, so I really appreciate that. And then my final question, this is before I go on to the wonderful, infamous property disasters. My last question is in regards to this idea of a blue tick, which I know that you love to talk about. So what is your opinion about people who have the blue ticks, have bought the blue ticks? What are your overall thoughts about it? Because I've not got a blue tick, and people are saying, do you think you should get one? So I'm curious to know.
I'm glad you asked. That's another vanity metric thing, in my opinion. So previously, the blue tick exists for celebrities, people who could get their account, have a fake account pretending to be them because they're famous, right? That's why it existed in the first instance. Then obviously the rise of the influencer happened. So then influencers had to have that, protection as well to stop people pretending to be them. That is why it existed. Then it became this sort of, I want to get that blue tick because it makes me look like this important VIP person who might otherwise be copied. So that's why everyone wants one. Then Instagram decides to release a blue tick that you can now pay for, which obviously annoyed a lot of people who'd got it organically because they were like, what? You can now pay for it? I earned mine. So now you can pay £12 a month to get a blue tick. Is it worth doing? Absolutely not. It does not increase your reach. It does not increase your engagement. And it's just a vanity metric. Everyone knows now that you can pay for it. So it doesn't make you look like a VIP having a blue tick. So the only reason I think it's acceptable to have a blue tick, unless you've just got it organically, is if you have clone accounts. So clone accounts are people who pretend to be you so that they can defraud people out of money. So a lot of my clients, the more sort of high profile ones, have clone accounts pretending to be them so that they can message people saying, invest in Bitcoin, and pretend to be, my client. I've had a clone account before. Everyone I followed kept messaging me, being like, I've reported them, but they're still there. So in the end, I got the blue tick to see, is Instagram going to get rid of it? Now I'm paying. Now I'm a paying customer. They got rid of it in 5 minutes, Athena. 5 minutes. I had been reporting this clone account for months. Within 5 minutes of paying them £12, they removed it like that. And then I thought, okay, that's interesting. Let's take this test further. I'm going to stop paying for the blue tick and see if it comes back. So it actually took 4 months for a new clone account to start to pretend to be me again. So I got 4 months of not paying for the blue tick before it popped up again. Popped up again. Again, everyone reported it. Nothing happened. Got the blue tick. Within 5 minutes, taken down again. So I do actually currently have a blue tick because I was just getting rid of that clone. But obviously you have to pay for the month anyway. So I'm letting the month run out, but I'm going to be stopping paying at that point. And I'm sure a new clone will pop up again. I will buy the blue tick, get rid of it, and get rid again. So if you get a clone account, get a blue tick because it will get rid of it immediately. Other than that, completely pointless to have it.
I love that. And I've loved this podcast. I said it before. I just think you're a breath of fresh air when it comes to really looking at this from a really real point of view as well. Saying, do you know what, guys, this bit here over here is vanity, and this is some tips to actually see your engagement and your reach. I just think it's great. I really do. And I could talk to you about social media like for ages. I love it. I really enjoy it. And I want to try and encourage people to see it in a really positive way and actually not get obsessed about it, because if you use it in a healthy way to produce as opposed to consume, I think it's a really good thing. If you use it to start comparing and you use it to start thinking, oh, look at all these, like, for example, I actually just one final thing to say about this particular topic is I get a lot of people sometimes who come to me and say, oh, but look at all what these people are achieving. Look what they've done. Like, it makes me feel rubbish. And I'm like, but then you're using it in completely the wrong way. You're gonna devastate yourself. And you hear these people that say, oh, I'm having a social media holiday or a detox from social media. And I'm like, if you need to do that, I think you're consuming it in completely the wrong way, personally, about that.
I totally agree with
Yeah.
that. I think a lot of people are using it really unhealthily. They're there to binge. And what happens is they go online and they get sucked into the vortex of Instagram. And 3 hours later, they're like, wait, where am I? What year is it? And because they're using it really unhealthily. And what they're doing from that is they're looking at other people, they're comparing themselves, they're feeling terrible about themselves, and they're not using it from a business perspective. But if you go in knowing, right, this is a business tool that's going to help me achieve all these amazing things, I'm going to meet all these fantastic people, great, then you can even set yourself a limit. So I would say turn off notifications on all of your social media platforms. Only go into it when you're actively choosing to go in and to be a member of the community, not a lurker. So if you get notifications, obviously it's so tempting to be like, oh, did someone comment on something? Let me just check that. I don't have any notifications set up because I just think it's really unhealthy. I like to use it as a business tool. Get in, get out, and use it positively. And so I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people don't understand that concept.
Absolutely. And then the final thing I'll say, just because I think it's hilarious and I just thought about it, was, in your home feed that you can see like trending things of what you look at the most on your home feed. Mine is full of dog videos, just funny dog videos. That's it. That's all I get. So that's my vortex. My vortex is getting lost in dogs making me laugh.
I have a separate account for that. I've trained the algorithm just to give me funny dog reels. That is literally like my old account, I just used that because I didn't want to mess up the algorithm on my property one, because I wanted to see what my clients are doing, what other property investors are doing, etc. So I've got one that I've trained the algorithm to give me property, and I've got another that I've trained to give me just dog content to bring me joy.
I should do that on my, as I've only really got one for me, and it's just dogs. I don't really see any property stuff. It's just dogs. Amazing. And then just to finish off in style then, so for a property mishap or property disaster, I know you said you mentioned one last time that you were on the podcast, but I'm sure you've had no, I don't mean that. I mean, like, you're just doing so many amazing things that there might have been something that came up that could be
millions of property investors. Yeah, no, totally.
That sounds awful.
No, I have had so many. I think that I've had like one property in particular that I feel like it's cursed. It's thrown everything at me. But more recent one is Joey's Cottage, which is going great, but it has had some issues. There's an unexplained leak, and as usual, every trade blames the next trade. So the roofer says it's because the stonemason didn't repoint a specific area. The stonemason says actually the roofer hasn't fitted this one thing that's really important to do. So it's just one of those annoying things where water is literally pouring into the house and no one can really tell why that's happening. So I'm having to like get every expert in to tick and cross what it could be and what it couldn't be, which is really annoying because it's stopping the decoration from being finished. So it's not really a disaster. It's just one of those things in property, unexpected things happen. There's been quite a few sort of unexpected costs, and everyone says to have a contingency, but sometimes the contingency gets blown. Like the staircases, when I took away the carpet, they needed all fixing. The repointing that I thought only needed to be done in one spot, the entire house needed repointing. That is a very expensive job because it's a stone house, so you need a specialist for that. So there's things like that happen all the time in property. I wouldn't call them disasters. I did call them life and property.
Yeah, do you know what? You're so right, life and property, because they're not disasters, they're just what happens, as it were. But shows and now you know how to do all of those things, all about the trades and everything like that. So well done. And I can't wait to see all the finished projects, especially Joe's Cottage. Like, it's just going to look beautiful. I can already see it coming to life. So I'm really, really excited. Very. And also, I'm going to say this on the podcast as well, because I'm a big believer in giving out to the universe and that type of thing. I would love to have you come and speak for the girls in property at some point when we do a talk, a retreat, something like that. I think you're incredible, and I think that people would love to meet you. So I'm going to put that out just as a would love to get you doing it at some
I would
point.
love that. I would love that. Yeah.
Fabulous. But Millie, thank you so much for coming on. I could literally do this podcast for like 3 hours and just
So
ask
could
you a
I. I
million
love chatting
questions.
about this stuff.
Well, it's just fun. It's just fun. And I just love the realness of the conversation. But if people wanted to get further advice from you and further conversations and to actually work with you, what's the best place to find you?
Instagram at posting property. That is the best way. Send me a DM. There is a link to my website there, but honestly, I think the best way is Instagram. I like a DM.
Lovely, amazing. And I'm Athena Dobson _official, and we are Girls in Property on Instagram, and girlsinpropertypod@gmail.com on email if you want to come on the podcast or if you want to send an email. So Millie, thank you so much again. I hope everyone's enjoyed this on their Monday morning. And yeah, feel free to get in touch with either of us if you need any more tips about social media. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys. Bye.